Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you are good. Today's video is going to be a comparison between the Oculus Quest 2 and the original Oculus Quest. Now, I've had the Quest 2 for a couple of weeks, basically since it was released, actually not a couple of weeks, about a week, and I've had the original Quest since April, I think. I think I got it during lockdown, and yeah, it kind of saved me. It kind of gave me something to do, something exciting to entertain myself. So I decided to upgrade to the Quest 2 and to give you some insight into what it's like. I will say right from the start, I do think the Quest 2 is great. I like it. I do think it is overall better than the Quest 1. Is it better in every single way? No. Is there some downgrades? In some ways, yes. Would I recommend the Quest 2 over the Quest 1? Yes, I would. And you'll see why throughout this video. I recommend you stick around. That is basically the conclusion, which is supposed to go at the end. But oh well. So let's talk about one of the main things that's changed between these two headsets, and that is the design, the build, the quality, the materials used. It is very, very different. The Quest 2's body has been made lighter, smaller. However, it uses cheaper materials. It's mostly made with a kind of hardened plastic, whereas the original Quest, while it is bulkier, while it is bigger, thicker, heavier, it is made with what I would consider to be more premium looking and feeling materials. There is a mix of plastic and a kind of fabric coating, which I think gave it quite a sleek appearance. One of the downsides of the fabric is that it could get quite easily very dusty and quite dirty, so perhaps moving towards a full unibody plastic design means that it is a little bit easier to clean. Just looking side by side, you can see there is quite a significant difference in size, and that will make a difference in terms of comfort. I'm going to go into more detail about how comfortable each headset is later on in this video, but bear that in mind. Now, looking away from the body, let's go towards the strap, because that is a very important part of the design of a VR headset. It is essentially what keeps the thing on your head. Again, and there has once again been quite a big change between these two. The straps on each one are very different, and this is one of the areas where the Quest 2 is actually a bit of a downgrade. Well, actually quite a lot of a downgrade from the Quest 1. The original Quest featured a very sturdy strap. It was made of rubber and plastic. It's very easy to put on, it's very easy to adjust, it's reasonably comfortable, the materials are easily adjustable. And look, it basically doesn't move even if you wave it around, you know, it's very sturdy. For a first generation headset, I thought this was quite good. The strap was more than comfortable enough for me. However, the Quest 2 has replaced that strap with a much more flimsy alternative. As you can see here, it is harder to put on, it is less comfortable, it is much harder to adjust, but still it is just such a shame that the rest of the headset, the design, I think mostly improved, but this strap is just awful. Now, I know there is a premium strap, or I forget what they call it now. There is basically another strap you can buy, and you can quite easily take this one off and put this new strap back on. However, that is another $50, I do believe, probably £50 as well. And I think it is, for me, going to be a must-have. I haven't got it yet, but I will try it out and let you know how much of an improvement it is. But yeah, this strap for me is just the worst thing about this headset. Let's talk about the IPD settings in both headsets, because that is another quite major change and also quite controversial. And by the way, if you don't know what IPD is, it's basically the distance between these two lenses. Obviously, people have eyes in different places on their face, so it is basically to adjust them so that it matches the position of your eyes. Now, on the Quest 1, it had this little slider here, which basically gave you unlimited options as to find the perfect position for the two lenses. The Quest 2, on the other hand, has just 3 options for you to choose from. There are 3 predefined measurements or settings or distances, and you do it by literally moving the lenses themselves inside the headset. Not only does this give you less options, it also means you are quite easily going to be able to touch the lenses with your fingers doing that, and it's going to leave a little thumbprint or fingerprint, and it's going to make it blurry, so you're going to need to remember to clean it up every time you change the IPD settings. Well, I guess once you find the perfect one for you, then it's going to be fine. But to be honest, with those 3 settings, it's going to be fine for 98% of people, even maybe more than that, maybe 100% depending on how you position your headset. But it just seems like a bit of a downgrade, because from unlimited to 3 settings is just, it is a downgrade. So taking all of that into consideration, let's talk about overall comfort. Which one is the more comfortable headset to wear? Even though the Oculus Quest 2 has the much worse strap. I still think it is more comfortable to wear. Now, the reason for this, I think, is just because of the loss of weight. I think that is very important. Because this is lighter, because it is not as thick or as large, it is not so top heavy. And whenever I've used the Quest 1 or the original Quest, whatever you want to call it, it has left big marks on my face and they stay there for like an hour because it just rubs against your face because it is so top heavy. And I just can't really use it for more than half an hour without really being quite uncomfortable. Whereas I've happily used the Quest 2 for an hour and more and not really faced any issues. Yes, the strap is annoying, but I kind of forget about it after 10 minutes. The rest of the design I think has been improved just because of the decrease in weight and size. That is the most important thing. Let's go into something a little bit more meaty. Let's talk about the screens in these two headsets, because that is another big change and also controversial. Some people are not agreeing on whether it's an upgrade or a downgrade. So the original Quest featured two OLED displays with a resolution per eye of 1440 by 1600, and it had a maximum refresh rate of 72 Hz. The Oculus Quest 2 features a single LCD display with a resolution per eye of 1832 by 1920. And at the moment it's limited to 72 Hz. However, there is a 90 Hz update coming. Let's talk about the change in resolution because that is quite important. Essentially, guys, immediately when I started using the Quest 2, I noticed that everything was a lot sharper. Details, everything just looked more crisp, and that is because of the increased resolution, which is significant, and it really does make quite a big difference. I've literally worn both headsets one after the other, or playing the same game or looking at the same thing, and the difference is very noticeable. However, the original Quest featured OLED screens, which do have some advantages. The main advantage being that anything that is dark in the VR world on the screens, anything that is black, is going to be truly black. The LCD screens cannot display true blacks because there is always a light shining at the back of the display. That is just how this technology works. Now, if you're playing a very dark game or a game that features lots of darkness and lots of black, dark areas, you may notice that there is a kind of blue-gray tinge to everything, and that is because of that LCD screen. Now, as I've been talking, I've been showing you some examples of what that means. I've tried to record inside the lenses of each headset to show you what I mean. Obviously, that is quite difficult and it isn't exactly what you would see with your eyes, but you can notice some difference in color, in saturation. Hopefully you notice that sharpness, and you will also notice a difference in the black levels that I've talked about. So which one is better? I mean, some people are really uptight about this AMOLED versus LCD. However, guys, I am convinced that the Quest 2 overall much better when it comes to displaying the VR world. There is none of that screen door effect which you got with the Quest 1, which is basically being able to see visible pixels. That is basically gone. So for me, the Quest 2, the screen is much better, and I am pretty much one of the reasons I'm glad I upgraded. So the next thing I want to talk about is how powerful are these headsets? How do they run and what are their limitations? Well, I mean, you've probably heard and we all know that the Quest 2 is so much more powerful. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. They really boosted it quite a lot. The Quest 1 released last year and ran on a processor, the Snapdragon 835, I do believe, and that was quite an old processor when it was released or announced, at least. You know, that's been used quite a few years ago, so it really was limited to what it could display, the kind of games that could be created for this. I mean, I've had loads of fun with it and I think it's amazing what developers can do, but there is a limitation to what can be done with this headset. The Quest 2 is powered by a much newer processor. I think it's actually pretty much brand new, the Snapdragon XR2. It's like comparing a donkey to a racehorse. Which one would you bet on? There have been some comparisons just on raw power here. I mean, you can see this graphic and it basically shows you how much better this processor is. It's literally 3 times better in many respects. It's like the difference between a PS3 and a PS4, perhaps not as intense or big. It is next generation in terms of power. The Quest 2 also features 6 GB of RAM as opposed to just 4 on the original Quest. The increased power of the Quest 2 means it boots up a lot faster, I would say in under half the time than the Quest 1. Everything also seems to run more smooth, menus load up faster, everything's more responsive. The thing is that even though the Quest 2 has all this extra power right now, it has all this boosted capabilities, it's not really being taken advantage of because nobody's really made a game to use this power in the Quest 2. It's because the people who make the games, game developers, VR developers, are going to want to make games that are still compatible with the Quest 1 because so many more people own it. It's been out for a year and a bit, a lot of people, millions of people have bought it, and they're not going to release something that's only playable on this because it's only been out for a week or a month, or even in a few months' time. That's still not going to nearly match the number of people who have a Quest 1, and I think it's going to be a while until we see that really being used. Let's focus on the games actually, because that is why people buy these headsets, mostly for gaming. So like I said, right now the offerings on both headsets are nearly identical. Well, pretty much are identical. The only difference is that some games have been boosted for the Quest 2. So I guess they're basically the same games, but the graphics have been updated, the visuals have been updated. Here you can see that are available. There's not that many, and I think it will be a while until there are. So as of right now, if you can get a Quest 1 pretty cheap, which I'm sure you can because a lot of people will have sold them off, you can play pretty much the same games as you can on the Quest 2. And to be honest guys, it's not about the graphics, it's not about the visuals, it's about the experience, and I've had so much fun with the Quest 1. I don't see any problem with owning one now. It's still going to be a great experience, especially if it's your first VR headset. But looking into the future, I do think there will be a time when the Quest 1 becomes a bit obsolete and all of the developers, all the games are going to be focused on the Quest 2. And I think the games that can be made for this are going to outmatch anything that can be made for the Quest 1. One of the final large changes to be made to the Quest 2 is the controllers. The controllers have been redesigned. It's not a huge redesign, but it is noticeable compared to the original Quest. The controllers on the Quest 2 are a little bit larger. The area where the buttons are, where you control everything, has been made larger. There is a dedicated place to rest your thumb while you are not using any buttons. The buttons have been slightly repositioned, as well as the joysticks, which have been put in a place where it's a lot easier to use, I think, or a lot more ergonomic. It's not going to make or break your purchase, but just know that I think slightly better controllers with the Quest 2. So before I finish off this review, let's just go through the last few changes to be made between these two headsets. Firstly, the battery life. The battery life, I think, has been slightly improved on the Quest 1. They do claim it is a little bit better. I think you can roughly play a game for like an hour and a half before it's going to start warning you that the battery is low. For audio, I don't really notice a difference in the speakers. So yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. I think I've gone through every change between the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. So yes, it is a big upgrade in terms of power. Definitely that is indisputable. In terms of future-proof, if you want a headset and you don't want to get another one for a couple of years, then the Quest 2 is going to be fine. They're trying to make this as cheap as possible to manufacture, which explains the cheaper materials and the much cheaper straps. So yeah, I guess that's what we pay for. So I should also point out that that extra power that the Quest 2 has can be utilized when connecting it to a VR-ready laptop PC using a link cable or any powerful USB-C cable. I have tried this out with the Steam VR with Oculus Link, and I found it ran quite a bit better than my original Quest. So if that is because of the increased power on this, I'm pretty sure it is making a difference, and also everything looks better anyway. So with both of these, you have access to all of those extra PC VR features as well. If you buy a simple cable like this, I will put it in the description where I got this. It was only £12, so around about $15. So guys, that's it. I hope you found that useful. I hope that's answered any questions you had between these two headsets, or if you wondered if it's worth upgrading or not. Hopefully that has answered the questions for you. So until next time, I hope you have a good one. I will see you around. Bye.